The morning sun rose over New Haven Colony like any other day, painting the agricultural fields in shades of gold and amber as farmers began their early work. Katie Morrison sat on the porch of her family's quarters, swinging her legs while her small companion sat beside. Her 7 looked like a toy to anyone who didn't know better, a child-sized robot with smooth white plating, bright blue eyes, and a friendly face that could make any kid smile. "Good morning, Katie," 7 said in his soft voice, tilting his head slightly. "Morning, 7," Katie replied, watching her father Greg walk toward the engineering bay across the compound. Her mother, Lisa, had already left for the research center where she studied the local plant life. New Haven was a peaceful place, one of humanity's frontier colonies established after joining the Galactic Council 200 years ago, a colony focused on agriculture and research, supplying food to nearby systems while studying the unique ecosystem of this world. Katie was 8 years old and had lived here her whole life. She couldn't imagine anywhere else feeling like home. "Want to play explorer today?" 7 asked, standing up with mechanical grace. Katie grinned and nodded, grabbing her backpack from inside the door. They had done this dozens of times, walking to the edge of the colony perimeter, where the wild forest began, collecting interesting rocks and plants for her mother's research commander. Jake Harris waved to them from the security station as they passed. "Stay within the boundary markers," he called out with a smile. "We will," Katie promised, holding up her hand to show she understood. 7 walked beside her with quiet steps, scanning the environment constantly, though Katie never noticed this behavior to her. 7 was just her friend, the companion android her parents had given her 3 years ago. Device was common in human colonies, a way to keep children safe and entertained while parents worked. What Katie didn't know was that 7 represented something far more sophisticated than a simple toy. The morning passed peacefully as Katie collected samples and 7 carried her backpack when it got too heavy. They returned to the colony center just before lunch, and Katie ran to the cafeteria where her mother was waiting. "Find anything interesting?" Lisa asked, examining the rocks Katie had gathered. 3 new types," Katie said proudly, pointing to each one. 7 stood quietly nearby, his blue eyes watching the people moving through the cafeteria. The afternoon brought clouds and a gentle rain, so Katie stayed indoors reading while 7 sat in his charging station. Greg came home early, ruffling Katie's hair before heading to clean up. "Big thunderstorm coming tonight," he said cheerfully. "Nothing to worry about though, just lots of rain." Katie didn't think much of it as she helped her mother prepare dinner. The colony felt safe and comfortable, surrounded by good people who all looked out for each other. That sense of security shattered at 2,100 hours when the alarms began screaming. Katie jolted awake, confused and frightened by the piercing sound that filled the night. Her father burst into her room, his face tight with worry. "Katie, grab 7 and get your emergency pack," Greg said quickly, helping her out of bed. "What's happening?" Katie asked, her voice small and scared. "Raiders," her father said simply, pulling her emergency backpack from the closet. "We need to get to the shelters now." 7 activated instantly, his eyes brightening as his systems came fully online. "I will protect Katie," the android stated, his voice different, somehow more focused and serious. The family rushed into the hallway, where other colonists were running toward the underground shelters. Explosions echoed from somewhere near the perimeter, and Katie could hear weapons fire in the distance. The Krellians had come without warning, descending from orbit in armed assault shuttles. They were insectoid beings, tall and armored with natural chitin plating that made them look like nightmares come to life. Their species had a reputation as slavers and raiders, targeting frontier colonies that seemed vulnerable. Greg and Lisa ran with Katie between them, 7 following close behind. Commander Harris's voice boomed over the colony speakers. ordering all civilians to the shelters, while security teams mobilized. The corridors were chaos, families running, lights flickering, alarms continuing their relentless wailing. Katie's mother stumbled when another explosion rocked the compound. Falling hard against the wall, Greg stopped to help her up, and in that moment, the corridor ahead collapsed in a shower of debris and sparks. "Go back," Lisa shouted over the noise. "Take the maintenance tunnels." They turned and ran the other way. But the Krellians were already inside the compound. Katie heard the clicking, chittering sounds of their language echoing through the halls. "In here," Greg hissed, pushing open the door to their family quarters. It wasn't a shelter, but it was somewhere to hide until they could find another route to safety. He locked the door behind them and moved furniture against it, barricading them inside. Lisa held Katie close, trying to keep her calm despite her own racing heart. Seven stood near the door, his small frame seeming inadequate against the danger outside. The sounds of combat grew closer, energy weapons firing, humans shouting, Krellians chittering their battle commands. Katie's father grabbed a tool from his workbench, the only thing resembling a weapon in the quarters. "Stay quiet," he whispered to Katie. "We'll wait until it's clear, then make a run for the secondary shelter." The family huddled together in the darkness, listening to the battle raging through their home. Minutes felt like hours as they waited, hoping the raiders would pass them by. Then the door exploded inward, sending debris flying across the room. 3 Krellian warriors pushed through the smoke, their compound eyes glittering in the emergency lighting. The lead raider was larger than the others, with elaborate markings on his carapace indicating rank. Vexter had been raiding human colonies for 6 cycles now, and he found them laughably weak. These soft-skinned bipeds had only recently joined the Galactic Council, and they had nothing the Krellians feared. His warriors grabbed Greg Morrison, knocking the tool from his hand and forcing him to his knees. Another seized Lisa, pulling her away from the child. Despite her struggles, Vexter clicked his mandibles in amusement as he looked at the small human spawn. "Primitive human young," he chittered, translating through his collar device. "Such weak creatures you are." His eyes fell on the small white robot standing beside the girl. "And what is this?" He laughed, a harsh clicking sound. "A toy human? How pathetic that you need machines to comfort your offspring." Katie stood very still, her heart pounding, but her voice steady when she spoke. "You should meet my little hunter," she said quietly, looking up at the towering alien with eyes that showed no tears. Vexter tilted his head, confused by the child's calm demeanor. Seven's blue eyes flickered once, twice, then shifted to a deep, glowing red. The transformation was instantaneous, and terrifying. Panels on Seven's arms slid open, revealing weapons that had been hidden in his compact frame. His friendly posture shifted into something predatory, something designed for combat. "Threat detected," Seven announced in a voice completely different from his usual gentle tone. "Lethal force authorized to protect. Primary charge." Vexter had half a second to realize his mistake before Seven moved. The little white robot that had seemed so harmless became a blur of deadly efficiency, and the Krellian raid leader understood too late that humans were far more dangerous than they appeared. Seven moved with precision that defied his small size. His combat algorithms, calculating trajectories and strike points in microseconds. The first Krellian warrior didn't even have time to raise his weapon before Seven's arm blade extended and cut through the joint in his chitinous armor. The alien fell with a screech of pain, his weapon clattering across the floor. The second warrior lunged forward, trying to grab the small android, but Seven ducked under the grasping claws and fired a pulse of energy into the Krellian's thorax. The warrior collapsed, twitching but alive. Seven's protocols wouldn't allow lethal force unless absolutely necessary. Vexter released his hold on Greg Morrison and activated his personal shield, backing toward the destroyed doorway. "What kind of toy is this?" He shouted in confusion, and Rage 7's red eyes locked onto the raid leader. Tracking his every movement, "I am Unit 7. Guardian-class military android," 7 stated calmly, positioning himself between Katie and the threat. "You have threatened my primary charge. This is unacceptable." Greg scrambled to his feet and pulled Lisa behind the overturned furniture, both of them staring at their daughter's companion in shock. They had known 7 was advanced technology, but this level of combat capability was something entirely different. Katie stood frozen, watching her friend defend them with skills she had never imagined. Vexter fired his plasma rifle at 7, but the small android dodged with inhuman speed, moving in ways that seemed impossible for his size. The shot scorched the walls behind where 7 had been standing, missing by centimeters. "Katie, stay down," 7 said, his voice returning briefly to the gentle tone she knew before switching back to combat mode. The little girl dropped behind the couch, trusting 7 completely despite the chaos around her. Vexter realized he was outmatched in this confined space and made a tactical decision that saved his life. He activated his communicator and barked orders in the Krellian language before throwing a smoke grenade and retreating through the broken doorway. 7 didn't pursue. His primary directive was to protect Katie, not chase fleeing enemies. The 2 wounded Krellian warriors crawled after their leader, leaving trails of blue blood across the floor within seconds. The quarters were quiet, except for the distant sounds of combat echoing through the colony. Greg moved cautiously to Katie, checking her for injuries, while Lisa stared at 7 with new understanding. "Your military hardware," Lisa said slowly, her scientific mind processing the revelation. "They gave our daughter a weapon disguised as a companion." 7's eyes shifted back to blue as he ran a diagnostic check, confirming Katie was unharmed. "Not entirely accurate," 7 responded, his friendly voice returning. "I am primarily a guardian, and companion combat capability is secondary to Katie's well-being and development." Greg pulled out his communicator and tried to reach Commander Harris, but the network was jammed with emergency traffic. "We need to move," he said firmly. "This isn't a safe position anymore," 7 nodded, his sensors detecting movement in the corridors outside. "Recommendation: proceed to the children's bunker in Section 7, the android suggested. "It has reinforced walls and better defensive positions." Lisa grabbed Katie's emergency pack while Greg armed himself with the fallen Krellian's energy pistol. The family moved carefully into the corridor, 7 taking point position ahead of them. The colony was a war zone now, walls scarred by weapons fire, smoke filling the air, emergency lights casting everything in red shadows. They passed other families fleeing toward shelters, saw security personnel fighting running battles with Krellian raiders. Commander Harris appeared from a side corridor, leading a group of armed colonists. "Morrison family," he called out, relief evident in his voice. "Get to Shelter 7. We're gathering all the children there." His eyes fell on 7. An understanding dawned on his face. "So the rumors were true," Harris said quietly. "The Guardian program is real." 7 tilted his head, acknowledging the statement without confirming details. "How many other units are active in the colony?" Harris asked. 17 Guardian units are currently protecting their assigned charges," 7 replied. "Coordination protocols have been activated," Harris nodded, processing this information quickly. "Then we have a chance," he said. "Get to the bunker. We're fortifying it now." The family ran through the chaos, 7 sensors constantly scanning for threats, whilst they encountered Krellian warriors. And both times, 7 engaged with devastating efficiency, while the Morrisons took cover. Katie watched her friend fight, beginning to understand that 7 had always been protecting her, even during their peaceful walks to the forest edge. Even while they collected rocks and plants, every moment of their friendship had been real. But there had always been this hidden layer of protection beneath the surface they reached Section 7's bunker to find it already filling with families and children. Other Guardian androids were there too, each one looking like a different type of toy or companion. Some were larger, some smaller, but all shared that same shift from friendly helper to lethal defender when danger approached. A young boy named Danny clutched his Guardian. A robot that looked like a mechanical Doga girl named Sophie held hands with hers. Android painted in bright colors that had seemed purely decorative hours ago. Now all the Guardians stood at the bunker's entrance, forming a defensive line with glowing red eyes and extended weapons. Greg and Lisa finally had a moment to process what was happening. "How long has the military been doing this?" Lisa asked quietly, looking at the row of Guardian units. A colony administrator named Peter Chan overheard and answered. 5 years, he said. Every human colony with children has been quietly receiving these units. Field testing and protection combined into one program, and no one thought to tell the parents. Greg asked, anger mixing with his relief. "Would you have accepted 7 if you knew he was a military weapon?" Peter countered. "The program works because the Guardians bond naturally with the children. No fear, no suspicion, just friendship." Katie sat against the wall, 7 beside her in standby mode. She reached out and touched his hand, and the android's eyes flickered to blue briefly. "You're still my friend, right?" she asked softly. "Always," 7 replied, his voice gentle again. "Protecting you is what I was made for, but being your friend is what I choose to be." Outside the bunker, Commander Harris organized the colony's defense. The Krellians had expected an easy raid on a farming settlement, but they were discovering that human colonies were anything but defenseless. The Guardian androids had bought precious time, allowing the human defenders to regroup and fortify key positions aboard the Krellian assault ship in orbit. Captain Drachmer received reports from the surface with growing concern. Vexter reports heavy resistance. His communications officer chittered. Multiple unknown combat units engaging our warriors. Drachmer's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Humans," he hissed. "They appeared so weak when they joined the council. Where are these weapons coming from?" The tactical display showed his ground forces taking casualties they hadn't anticipated. Human resistance was organized, fierce, and backed by technology that had been completely hidden from galactic intelligence. "Recall the forward squads," Drachmer ordered. "Regroup and prepare for a concentrated assault on the primary shelter locations." Back in the bunker, alarms indicated incoming enemy forces. 7 and the other Guardians moved to defensive positions, their small frames hiding incredible combat capability. Katie watched her little hunter prepare to face the next wave. And she wasn't afraid. She understood now that humanity had prepared for this, had built protection into the fabric of their colonies in ways the galaxy hadn't. Expected. The Krellians were about to learn a hard lesson about underestimating humans, and 7 would be the teacher. The Krellian assault intensified as armed shuttles descended from orbit, bringing fresh warriors to replace those who had fallen or retreated. Rackhalmer had committed more resources to the raid. Determined to salvage what had started as a routine colony strike, his warriors regrouped in the colony's outer sections, preparing a coordinated push toward the shelters where the humans had concentrated their civilians in the children's bunker. Commander Harris coordinated with his security teams through whatever communication channels remained. "Operational status report," he called out, checking the tactical display on his wrist unit. "Perimeter holding at sections 3 and 5. Came the response from Peter Chun, who had taken command of the civilian militia. "Heavy contact at section 8. They're trying to flank us." Harris nodded, his years of military experience coming back despite having lived as a peaceful colony administrator. Most colonists didn't know his background, but every human settlement had at least a few veterans scattered among the population. It was another layer of Earth's quiet preparation Farmers who could fight, researchers who understood tactics, engineers who knew how to build defenses. Guardian units status. Harris asked. 7 responded for the network of androids defending the children. All 17 units operational. He reported. 0 casualties among protected charges. Defensive perimeter holding. Kitty sat with the other children in the deepest part of the bunker, trying to keep the younger ones calm. Danny, the boy with the mechanical dog guardian, was crying quietly. It's scary, he whispered to Katie. I know, Katie replied, putting her arm around him. But 7 and all the guardians will keep us safe. That's what they do. Sophie, the girl with the brightly colored android, nodded agreement. Mine stopped 3 bad aliens already, she said, her voice a mix of pride and fear. They didn't know what hit them. Above them, the battle raged with new intensity. Krillian warriors pushed forward in organized squads, using suppressing fire and tactical shields to advance through the colony's corridors. They had adapted their strategy after the initial encounters with the Guardian units, focusing on overwhelming force rather than individual raids. But the humans had adapted 2 hidden defensive systems, activated throughout the colony. Automated turrets emerging from concealed panels, blast doors sealing off key corridors, energy barriers flashing into existence. New Haven had never been just a farming settlement. It was a testing ground, a laboratory for next generation colonial defense systems disguised as civilian infrastructure, agricultural equipment. In the fields doubled as sensor arrays, the irrigation systems could be repurposed as coolant for defensive weapons. Even the storage silos had reinforced sections designed to serve as emergency bunkers. Peter Chun smiled grimly as he activated another defensive layer. Let them come, he muttered, watching Corellian warriors stumble into kill zones they hadn't anticipated. From orbit, the human defense ship Defender dropped out of faster-than-light travel, responding to the automated distress signal New Haven had sent hours ago. Captain Nicole Bennett took in the tactical situation with experienced eyes. Corellian assault vessel in low orbit. Ground forces engaged with colony defenders. Her tactical officer reported. Match their orbit, Bennett ordered. Target their weapon systems, but hold fire. Let's give them a chance to withdraw. The Defender was a newer class of human warship, built after humanity had spent 2 centuries observing galactic military technology and quietly improving upon it, where other species saw humans as newcomers with primitive ships. The reality was far different. Earth's military had learned patience, had taken their time to understand the galactic landscape before revealing their true capabilities. The Corellian ship detected Defender's approach and turned to engage. Drakmar snarled in frustration, realizing the raid had gone completely wrong. Human warship approaching, his sensor officer reported. Configuration unknown, not matching any recorded class. Open fire, Drakmar ordered. Disable them quickly so we can complete the ground operation. The Corellian vessel unleashed plasma torpedoes and particle beams, weapons that had served their species well in countless raids. Defender shields absorbed the attacks easily, its defensive systems far more advanced than the Corellians anticipated. Return fire, Bennett ordered calmly. Precision strikes on their weapon arrays. I want them disabled, not destroyed. Defender's response was surgical and devastating. Magnetic accelerator rounds tore through the Corellian ship's weapon mounts, while targeted energy beams melted their shield generators within 90 seconds. Drakmar's vessel was crippled and helpless. Human ship. Came the translation of Drakmar's transmission. We surrender, cease fire. Bennett leaned back in her command chair, allowing herself a small smile. Surrender accepted, she replied. Recall your ground forces immediately, or we will assist the colony in removing them on the surface. Vexter received the recall order with bitter rage. He had led successful raids across a dozen systems, And now a farming colony had humiliated him. The Guardian units had proven far deadlier than their appearance suggested, and the colony's hidden defenses had torn apart his assault formations. Fall back to the shuttles, he ordered his remaining warriors. Prepare for orbital extraction. But Vexter wasn't finished. He had seen where the children were gathered, had noted the concentration of those deadly Guardian androids protecting them. If he couldn't claim slaves from this raid, he would at least destroy the humans' precious offspring and their mechanical protectors. He gathered his personal squad, the most loyal and skilled warriors under his command. We strike the children's bunker, he told them. One final blow before we withdraw. His warriors clicked their mandibles in agreement. Sharing their leader's desire for vengeance, they moved through the colony's damaged sections. Avoiding the main defensive positions, Vexter had studied human settlements during his years of raiding, and he knew they always had maintenance tunnels and service corridors. Krellians found an access point near Section 7 and began cutting through the sealed hatch inside the bunker. 7 sensors detected the breach attempt immediately. Incoming hostiles via maintenance access, he announced, his eyes shifting to red. All Guardian units converge on entry point Alpha. The 17 androids moved in perfect synchronization, forming a defensive wall between the children and the danger. Katie stood up, watching 7 as fellow Guardians prepare for the final confrontation. Greg Morrison held his wife close, knowing that whatever happened in the next few minutes would determine everything. Stay behind us, 7 said to Katie, his voice gentle despite the imminent violence. No matter what happens, you'll be safe. The maintenance hatch exploded inward, and Vexter led his warriors through the smoking opening. He found himself facing a line of small, child-sized robots with glowing red eyes and extended weapons. Behind them stood the human children, protected by their little hunters, pathetic machines. Vexter snarled, raising his weapon. You think toys can stop us? 7 tilted his head, and when he spoke, his voice carried a weight that made the Krellian hesitate. We are not toys, 7 said quietly. We are humanity's promise, the promise that no child under our protection will ever be harmed. Now come and test that promise, he added. And all 17 Guardians moved forward as one. Vexter finally understood the trap he had walked into. But by then, it was far too late. The Guardian androids struck with coordinated precision that bordered on artistic, each unit moving in perfect harmony with the others. They had been designed to work together, sharing tactical data across their network while adapting to each threat in real time. Vexter's elite warriors were skilled and experienced, but they faced opponents who processed combat scenarios faster than biological minds could comprehend. The first wave of Krellians fell within seconds, their weapons knocked aside by impossibly quick movements. The 4 stun charges dropped them to the ground. Guardians had shifted to non-lethal protocols. These warriors were no longer an immediate threat to the children, so deadly force was unnecessary. Roared in frustration, firing his plasma rifle at the nearest android. The shot connected, melting armor plating and damaging the unit's left arm. But the Guardian simply compensated and continued fighting with its remaining weapons. They're just machines, Vexter shouted to his warriors, trying to rally them, destroy them, and take the children. But his warriors were discovering what humans had known since the Guardian program began. These weren't simple machines. Each android had been built with technology Earth had spent 2 centuries developing, combining galactic innovations with human engineering philosophy. They were faster than Krellian reflexes, more durable than standard combat frames, and programmed with tactical algorithms that predicted enemy movements with terrifying accuracy. 7 moved through the combat with fluid grace, disabling warriors without wasting a single motion. His focus remained split between the battle and Katie's position, constantly verifying her safety, even while engaging multiple opponents. Another Guardian Unit Sophie's brightly colored companion took a direct hit that shattered its torso plating. It staggered, but remained functional. Its core systems protected by redundant shielding. The damaged android turned to Sophie and gave her what could only be described as a reassuring gesture before returning to the fight. Katie watched the battle with wide eyes. Seeing her friend and the other Guardians defend them with unwavering determination, she noticed something the adults might have missed. The Guardians were being careful. Even in combat, they disabled rather than destroyed, incapacitated rather than killed, showing restraint that seemed almost human. They care about doing it right, Katie whispered to herself, understanding something profound about these machines. Her parents and the colony adults had underestimated. The battle reached its peak when Vexter activated a personal combat mode his species reserved for desperate situations. His carapace shifted, revealing additional limbs tipped with natural weapons evolved over millions of years. He became a whirlwind of slashing claws and stabbing appendages, forcing the Guardian units to focus more resources on containing him. I will not be defeated by human toys, Vexter screeched. His pride wounded beyond tolerance. 7 analyzed the Krellian leader's combat patterns, calculating optimal response strategies. Recommendation to other units. 7 transmitted across the Guardian network. Contain and disable. This target is too dangerous to take lightly. 4 Guardian androids moved to support 7, creating an engagement perimeter around Vexthor. They worked together like parts of a single organism, each covering the other's positions while systematically breaking down the Krellians' defenses. Vexter fought with savage skill, damaging 2 more Guardians and sending a third tumbling across the bunker floor. But he was tiring, his biological limitations showing against opponents who never fatigued. 7 saw the opening and took it, sliding under Vexter's guard and delivering a precisely calculated strike to the Krellian's primary leg joint. The raid leader collapsed with a howl of pain and rage, his weapons skittering away across the floor. The other Guardian units secured the remaining warriors, leaving the bunker floor littered with defeated but living enemies. 7 stood over Vexter, one hand transformed into a weapon aimed at the Krellian's head. You threatened children under my protection, 7 stated, his voice cold and mechanical. This is the consequence. The bunker fell silent except for the heavy breathing of the captured Krellians and the quiet sobbing of some of the younger children. Greg Morrison stepped forward, the captured energy pistol in his hand, looking down at the raid leader who had terrorized his family. They came to take our children, he said quietly. Anger barely contained in his voice. Lisa joined him, her hands clenched into fists. They would have sold them as slaves, she added. Thinking of what might have happened if the Guardians hadn't been there, Commander Harris emerged from the tactical station, surveying the captured enemies with cold satisfaction. Justice will be served, he said firmly. The Galactic Council will hear about this raid. But it was Katie who moved forward, stepping past the adults toward where 7 stood over Vexter. Katie, stay back, Greg called out, reaching for his daughter. It's okay, Dad, Katie replied, her voice small but steady. She stopped next to 7, looking down at the defeated Krellian leader. Vexter's compound eyes focused on the human child. Seeing her up close for the first time, without threat or violence between them, she was so small, so fragile compared to his species. Why? Vexter clicked out in his language, the translator caller rendering it in human speech. Why protect them so fiercely? They are just offspring, replaceable, forgettable. Katie tilted her head, considering the question with the simple honesty of a child. Because we matter, she said softly. Every child matters, not because we're strong or important now, but because of what we could become. She looked up at 7, then back to Vexter. 7 protects me not because I'm valuable like treasure, but because humans believe children deserve protection just for being children. Vexter made a sound that might have been laughter or pain. Foolish sentiment, he managed, though his voice lacked conviction. 7, Katie said gently, touching her guardian's arm. He's hurt, and he's not fighting anymore. Can we help him? The adults in the bunker stared at the little girl in shock after everything the Krellians had done. After the violence and terror, she was asking for mercy. 7's red eyes flickered. His combat protocols processing this unexpected request from his primary charge. Katie, this being attempted to harm you, 7 said carefully. Standard protocol suggests maximum restraint is appropriate. I know, Katie replied. But he's defeated now, and you taught me that we should be kind when we can, remember? 7 had indeed spent 3 years teaching Katie about compassion, cooperation, and treating others with respect. Those lessons had been part of his companion programming, designed to help human children develop strong moral foundations. Now his own charge was applying those lessons in a way his combat protocols hadn't anticipated. 7's eyes shifted from red to blue as he made a decision that would ripple far beyond this. Bunker. Affirmative, he said, lowering his weapon. Medical assistance will be provided to injured combatants. He activated his communicator, requesting medical teams for the wounded Krellians. Greg and Lisa stared at their daughter with new understanding. She had faced terror and violence, but emerged with her compassion intact, teaching even an advanced combat android about the importance of mercy. Commander Harris observed the scene with quiet satisfaction. This was why humanity protected its children so fiercely, not because they were weak, but because they represented the best of what humanity could be. Baxter lay on the bunker floor, his body aching from injuries, his pride shattered by defeat, but as medical personnel arrived to treat even the captured enemies with care, he began to understand something about humans that most of the galaxy had missed. They weren't weak. They were strong enough to show mercy. They weren't naive. They were wise enough to see beyond immediate vengeance, and their children, protected by their little hunters, were being raised to carry these values forward. The raid on New Haven was over, but its consequences were just beginning. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened 3 days after the raid on New Haven, with representatives from 47 species gathering in the Grand Chamber on the neutral station. Orbiting Kepler 442b, the Krellian delegation sat in uncomfortable silence, their mandibles clicking nervously as evidence of their unprovoked attack was presented. Ambassador Linda Hayes stood at the human podium, her posture calm, but her voice carrying the weight of righteous anger. The Krellian assault on New Haven colony resulted in 17 injured civilians, extensive property damage, and significant trauma to our children, she stated, displaying holographic evidence of the destruction. This was not a border dispute or a territorial misunderstanding. This was an act of piracy and attempted slavery. The Council Arbiter, a towering being named Zekthar from the ancient Paxler species, examined the evidence with multifaceted eyes. The Krellian government claims their warriors acted independently, without official sanction, Zekthar said in a voice like grinding stone. Convenient, Ambassador Hayes replied. Yet this is the 14th human colony to suffer Krellian raids in the past 8 cycles. At what point does a pattern become policy? Murmurs spread through the council chamber as representatives reconsidered the human complained humanity had joined the Galactic Council 200 years ago, appearing as a peaceful species focused on trade and cultural exchange. Most council members had dismissed them as minor players, technologically behind and militarily weak. The footage from New Haven was shattering those assumptions. The Council watched as guardian androids defended the colonists with precision and restraint, showing combat capabilities that rivaled or exceeded anything the Krellian warriors possessed. They saw human defensive systems activate with coordination that suggested extensive military planning. They witnessed Captain Bennett's ship Defender disable a Krellian assault vessel in less than 2 minutes. The humans have been hiding their true military capacity, whispered the Trellix ambassador to his aide. Not hiding, corrected his aide. Simply not advertising. There's a difference. The most impactful moment came when Ambassador Hayes presented Katie Morrison's testimony. The holographic image of the 8-year-old appeared in the center of the chamber. Seven standing quietly beside her. "Hello," Katie said with a small wave. "My name is Katie, and this is my friend Seven." The gathered species watched this small human child with curiosity. "The bad aliens came to hurt us," Katie continued, her voice steady despite the enormity of the audience. "They wanted to take children away from their families. Seven and his friends stopped them." She patted Seven's arm, and the android's eyes glowed gentle blue. "Everyone asks why humans made guardians look like toys and friends instead of scary soldiers," Katie said. "I think I know why." The chamber waited in silence, because if Seven looked like a weapon, I would have been afraid of him. Katie explained with childlike clarity. "But because he's my friend first, I learned to trust him, and when bad things happened, I knew he would keep me safe." She smiled at the camera. "Seven is my little hunter, but he's also my teacher, and my companion humans make things that care about us, not just things that fight for us." Zekthar leaned forward in his judgment seat, fascinated by the simple wisdom in the child's words. "What would you have the council do, young human?" The arbiter asked gently. Katie thought for a moment, her face scrunching up in concentration. "Make sure other kids don't have to be scared like we were," she replied. "And maybe help the bad aliens understand that taking children is wrong. Everyone deserves to grow up with their families." The hologram faded, leaving the council chamber in thoughtful silence. Ambassador Hayes returned to the podium. "Humanity requests formal sanctions against the Krellian Empire for acts of piracy and attempted slavery," she stated. "We also propose new council regulations protecting frontier colonies of all species from such raids." The Krellian ambassador rose, his carapace dull with shame. "The Krellian Empire acknowledges wrongdoing." He clicked out reluctantly. "We offer reparations and agree to cease all raids on human territory." "Not enough," Hayes replied firmly. "Your warriors targeted children. The council must send a clear message that such acts will not be tolerated against any species." Zekthar consulted with the other senior arbiters before making his pronouncement. "The council finds the Krellian Empire guilty of unprovoked military action against a civilian population, the ancient being declared. Sanctions will be imposed, reparations paid, and new protections established for frontier settlements." He paused, his multifaceted eyes sweeping across the assembly. "Furthermore, this council recognizes that humanity has demonstrated both military capability and moral restraint worthy of deeper respect." Zekthar continued. "The Guardian program, while unexpected, shows a species that plans for protection rather than conquest." The vote was nearly unanimous, with only the Krellian delegation abstaining. New Haven Colony received substantial support for rebuilding, and humanity's status within the council shifted from peripheral member to recognized power. But the real change happened in the days and weeks that followed. Word of the toy hunters spread across galactic communication network species that had dismissed humanity as weak newcomers began reassessing their intelligence reports. How many other surprises were hidden in human colonies? What other technologies had Earth been quietly developing while appearing peaceful and cooperative? The Guardian androids became legendary small, friendly machines that transformed into deadly protectors when children were threatened on New Haven. Life slowly returned to normal. The colony rebuilt damaged sections, and children returned to their routines with their Guardian companions. Katie and Seven resumed their walks to the forest edge, collecting samples for Lisa's research. But now, when they walked past the security station, Commander Harris would nod with new respect. "Morning, Katie." "Morning, 7." He would call out, "Morning, Commander." They would reply together, "Greg." Morrison had accepted a position helping develop next-generation defensive systems for frontier colonies. His experience during the raid had shown him the importance of the work, and he wanted to ensure other families had the same protection. Lisa continued her xenobiology research, but now she also studied the psychology of human AI. Bond 7's relationship with Katie had proven that advanced combat systems could coexist with genuine companionship. "Do you think about what happened?" Katie asked 7 one afternoon as they sat under her favorite tree. "Constantly," 7 replied, his blue eyes reflecting the sunlight. "I analyze every decision I made, evaluating whether I could have protected you more effectively." "You did great," Katie assured him. "Nobody got hurt bad. And you even helped the aliens when I asked." "That was an interesting learning experience," 7 admitted. "My combat protocols didn't include provisions for mercy requested by my primary charge. You created a new behavioral pattern for me." Katie smiled and leaned against her friend's shoulder. "That's what friends do," she said. "They help each other learn and grow." 3 months after the raid, New Haven received an unexpected visitor. A diplomatic shuttle requested landing permission, bearing the insignia of the Valkyrie Consortium, a species known for their advanced biotechnology and cautious nature. The Valkyrie ambassador, a graceful being named Silra, requested a meeting with the Morrison family. "We have observed your colony's response to the Krellian attack," Silra explained in melodious tones. "The Guardian program fascinates us, technology designed primarily for protection rather than offense." Lisa welcomed the ambassador into their home, where Katie and 7 waited. Curious Liz Iller bent down to Katie's level, her large eyes gentle. "Young one, your testimony before the council moved many species to reconsider their view of humanity," the ambassador said. "Would you be willing to show me how you and your guardian interact?" Katie looked at 7, who nodded encouragingly for the next hour. Katie and 7 demonstrated their daily routine, reading together, playing games, discussing Katie's schoolwork. Siller watched with fascination as the advanced combat android patiently helped an 8-year-old with arithmetic problems. "Remarkable," the ambassador murmured. "The same entity that disabled 12 Krellian warriors now corrects multiplication errors with infinite patience. That's what makes 7 special," Katie explained. "He's not just strong, he's kind." The visit ended with Silra requesting formal cultural exchanges between the Valkyrie and humanity. Other species followed, drawn by curiosity about the civilization that armed their children with friendship before weapons. New Haven became a symbol of human philosophy. Prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Protect fiercely, but show mercy when possible. And always put children first. Katie grew older, and 7 remained her constant companion. She learned that her little hunter was more than a guardian. He was a bridge between human values and technological capability. Years later, when Katie entered the diplomatic corps herself, she would tell new ambassadors about the day the aliens learned not to underestimate humanity. "They saw toys," she would explain with a knowing smile. "But we gave our children hunters who were also friends, protectors who could also teach kindness, and weapons that understood the value of mercy. That's the human way," she would conclude. "We build strength on foundations of compassion."